There's nothing more worrying when you're about to do a video on something and then there's an update. Oh, love it. Love it. I don't, but I do. Okay, so Black Myth Wukong on the Steam Deck again. We're always loving these Steam Deck videos. So, actually, interestingly enough, you can install it on the Steam Deck. Obviously, you can install anything. However, the game's graphic performance cannot be configured to run well on the Steam Deck. I am going to take that as an absolute personal challenge, Black Myth. I'm sure other people have done this. In fact, I would have probably bet some money that other people have done this particular video that I'm going to do right now. But I find this quite interesting. The volume is going to be quite low on the Steam Deck anyway. I realised that in the Dynasty Warriors video. But still, we're going to, give it a go. And I don't know if the update is going to make any difference. It's like half a gig. So maybe, maybe not. Maybe it's something to do with the new NVIDIA drivers that came out yesterday. Not sure for the 50 series, which I do not have, of course. Not bitter. Okay, so I actually really like having all the bits at the top. It's good to see. Gives us some indication of what we're working with. So I've been playing this at the minute. It's going to take a while to load, isn't it? I think because it's got to do the shaders and stuff. So I only think that's something to talk about. I've been playing this a little bit on my main computer and thoroughly enjoying it, actually. It is a visually stunning game. Really, really nice. And I didn't realise that other people might have said that as well. It's been out for a while, really, for this being my first foray into it. But yeah, I think it's great. And I don't know if it's got to be up there as one of literally the most beautiful games I've ever played, I think. And there's really good company there. So, and I've only really just started playing it. So hopefully the game continues in that same vein in terms of how it's looking and playing. Oh, right. So, yes, I have run this before. That is the truth. Obviously, there's not going to be any ray tracing today on the Steam Deck. And this is the best settings that I have found, I believe. But in any case, we're going to give it a go. So Black Myth Wukong would like me not to play it on low because it exceeds the setting limit thing. And I imagine that's probably a VRAM and all that. VRAM 1.8. I think there's more VRAM on the... You can allocate, or have allocated extra memory to the graphics chip on the Steam Deck, so mine is probably the best case, realistically. We've got FSR as well, which is absolutely needed, and I have to play on DLSS on my main computer, which has a 4090 in it, so just for reference. I'm going to run the benchmark, actually. Why not? I will go into some gameplay as well, so buckle up, because this might be a bit of a longer video. I probably need to do a video of some gameplay of me running it on my main computer, because you may have noticed in one of my previous videos complaining about frame gen. I have some real issues with Black Myth Wukong when running, in this particular scenario, running the ray tracing of any level, but higher equals worse, and then the frame gen. And it seems as though the frame gen is really struggling with the ray tracing lighting and then the light and darkness of the scene. So I'm getting this bright light and then dark flickering, very rarely though. And yeah, it's very noticeable for me. It may be something that I'm maybe a bit more, have a predisposition to feeling, I guess, if you like. And yeah, it makes the game unbearable, and to the point where I would rather play it on either lower FPS or not have ray tracing. Now, with the ray tracing on, don't get me wrong, I am normally a bit of a naysayer in terms of the ray tracing, but you can clearly see a difference. However, I'm not certain that there's a huge amount of... I think the more the difference is just having it on, so even on low, looked perfectly fine to me and did add enough where I felt quite happy about it. So the frame timing on here is obviously all over the shop, and I think that's probably a quirk of the frame gen. I have, however, been really impressed with the FSR frame gen, and weirdly enough, I think the Intel one must be open source as well. It's in the same way that FSR is, because I used the Intel one on Dynasty Warriors after I'd filmed my video, and that one worked with the frame gen. That one actually worked better than FSR because it managed to get rid of those artifacting texture issues that was going on in the mountains on the world map of Dynasty Warriors. So yeah, I think there is. I've kind of gone back the other way. I do think the frame gen thing is a proper gimmick. However, utilized in the right way, it could be very impactful. And particularly, I mean, we're trying to make the case for really high-end hardware using frame gen. And for me, that's just a complete mind boggle. It needs to be there for our mid and low end in order to be able to help it keep up and, basically provide some extra longevity. Which, and I know the DLSS is all ray tracing stuff and all that kind of thing, but like imagine a GTX 1080 Ti with any sort of DLSS capabilities. That would still be we'd still be buying that now because it's effectively the same as a 3060 Ti with less VRAM, and VRAM is a big issue at the minute apparently. Oh gosh, even though I'm running this on a Steam Deck with how much? Oh, apparently we've got 6 gigs of VRAM, so we're not maxing out the buffer then. So this is with frame gen. So we got an average of 58, which I think is, well, I mean, can you complain with that? I know we're running at super resolution, so we're not running at 720p at all. So yeah, let's return to the settings and we'll turn off frame gen, and then I'm just going to we'll go into some gameplay and we'll run it through there because that's, I mean, the benchmarks are fine and all, aren't they? But actually seeing it in real life is nice. So running at 80%. Can't do the maths that quick, but generally that's much lower than I would like. My one on my actual on my main computer, like DLSS is on by standard. Is frame gen on by standard? I can't remember now, but DLSS was on by standard. I was thinking this is the first time I've ever seen a game with DLSS on by standard. Usually I have to change these things. Don't get me wrong, everything's on cinematic, so I'm not sure if that's reasonable to have. As in, is cinematic like a future hardware level of graphical intensity? Maybe it is. And, if they built something as beautiful as this, obviously want to be able to show it off. So I have some sympathy, but I just find it incredible. Yep. So we have, I don't know what TSR is. Anyway, not going to worry about that. We'll stick with FSR because I know what that is most of the time. Let's turn off frame gen and apply it, obviously. And then we'll run a benchmark and you'll see the difference. And because this is, by the way, by far the sort of best settings that allows you to have some clarity in the visuals, but also gives you the best performance. So I wouldn't want to, the thing is 80 at 720p is kind of about as low as you want to go. I mean, I'm okay at 1440p am I okay with it? I'm not okay with it with a top of the line graphics card, but in theory, dropping down to 75% at 1440 gives you 1080. So, that to me feels like a pretty good, deal, really, to have your 1080p upsampled to, I know it's like the opposite way around and all that sort of stuff, but right. So nothing else has changed other than the fact we've not got frame gen. So you see the frame timings up in the top left corner, very smooth. This is the raw native performance with FSR at 80% strength, whatever you want to call it, resolution scale. And over 30 is still good. I mean, I would say if you're going to play something on the Steam Deck, particularly something that has literally just come out, and it's, I'll tell you what we'll do next. We'll run it without any FSR, and you'll see the difference. So I'm a little bit unsure as to Steam's whole thing of saying, it can't run well on the hardware, effectively on the Steam Deck hardware, so therefore it's not recommended. I get sort of erring on the side of caution with it, but there's nothing that actually stops this game from physically running. FSR is a legitimate tool, bit of texture popping there, but there's I don't know, you kind of have certain expectations, right, when you pick up and play a Steam Deck and you've had something come out that is basically like a brand new game. I know it came out in August, but it's effectively a brand new game, last 6 months, just over 6 months. Like, the fact that it runs at all is incredible, really. And I know they've maybe not done any Steam Deck optimization, which I'd actually quite like to see more companies do, because that would, ironically, if you optimize your game for the Steam Deck, that inadvertently also helps optimize it for lower end systems as well, which is great. I love to see that kind of thing, particularly with like low powered cards and that kind of stuff. Because my actual laptop that I don't use for gaming has a very similar spec standard to the Steam Deck, which is great because I know they're roughly about the same performance, which is nice. So I know if I can play some on the Steam Deck, I can also play it on my laptop as well. Do we need to see the... Oh, yeah, well, we're nearly there at the end of the benchmark anyway. So, yeah, a few benchmarks. We'll do one more benchmark and then we'll get into actual gameplay, and I'll try not to embarrass myself too much. I've currently beaten the second boss. I've seen 2 bosses. Well, I've technically seen 3 bosses, but I've seen 2 bosses and I've beaten them. Right, so 80%. I think I will have some sympathy because I can't remember what the score is. If this comes back sub 30 with no FSR, then I'll be like, okay, I'll let you off. Do I have to pick a super? Okay, well, see, it even knows. It knows that it's going to get issues, and it does this on the desktop one as well. So we can go to 90. I reckon 90 is going to be almost flat average 30 FPS, but I'm going to put it on 100, which technically means FSR is still kind of on, but anyway, let's run it. Oh, gosh, seen it in real time. Why edit? Why edit when you can just do what I'm doing now and talk rubbish over the benchmarks? I think, and there is also that other thing as well. I mean, you will inevitably, will you? I don't know. If you're watching this on, you're going to have the compression from YouTube anyway. And if you're watching this on computer, you're likely to be watching it on a screen that is much larger than the Steam Deck screen, for example, which is why the 720p, 800p works quite well for the Steam Deck, because it's appropriate for the size of the screen. Okay, so no. Oh yeah, you see, that's the issue, isn't it? So close though. Okay. I mean, yeah, because of the lower frame rate, I suppose it's not a CPU issue. It is just GPU issue. So I guess that probably means, in theory, if you've got an ROG Ally overhead and all that other stuff notwithstanding, you're probably able to run. You might probably is maybe I've gone too much there. You may well be able to run this at 30 FPS with no FSR. However, once again, I'm gone from sympathetic mode to not sympathetic mode. The fact that the game's settings are as such when I load up on my main computer, still getting texture issues, maybe, okay, that's maybe a bit more fair, that I still have DLSS on by default. I don't see why on the Steam Deck you do have FSR on by default and say, yeah, that's playable, because we've got FSR. There is a way to make the game run smooth enough. It is a tricky one. Like I said, I did mention before, I have a GTX 1080 Ti in my other computer downstairs. The CPU is even older than the 1080 Ti, but it's fine. And I kind of want to play Black Myth run it on that and see how that performs. I guess, I mean, obviously on low it's going to run fine, or 60 FPS. But yeah, just having to play around with the resolution settings, seeing what the best is you can get with 60 FPS basically. And I'm not sure, actually. I guess it just depends on the overhead of the textures and that kind of thing, because by all intents and purposes, the 1080 Ti's got a much bigger frame buffer than a good amount of the modern cards, but then it doesn't have DLSS. So is that going to majorly hurt the performance? Probably. So what did we get overall? 28, I'm going to guess. 29. It's very, very close. See, I would not be in the stage of saying that is unplayable based on that benchmarking result. Clearly, you do need some FSR though, because you absolutely need to have a bit of headroom, even if you're like, yeah, we're just going to play it at 30 FPS. I should say as well, I've limited the Steam Deck to 60, and I don't believe anyone should have a problem with me doing that, because that should be fine. So the game is set like 90 as its thing. So let's confirm that. Let's jump into the game, run around, have a look. Obviously, it's nowhere near as beautiful on low settings. Did you think it was going to be? Hopefully not. But what is the gameplay experience like? It does feel a bit of a shame. I don't normally say this about games, to be honest, and I'm very much not a graphics snob. However, I think this is one of those games that would be a real shame to only purely play on the Steam Deck. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you're going away for a couple of days, whatever, and you know you're going to have a few hours and you want to carry on with your play of Black Myth Wukong, then by all means. I think we do need to do, it's not for me to do, I don't think, I don't want to do it, a bit more digging into really how this frame gen stuff is working. See, the nice thing about this, right, and I'm not trashing on Biomutant, I really enjoyed it, I know a lot of people didn't, but this kind of looks like how Biomutant, this is on low, looks kind of how Biomutant looks on high. Like, it kind of almost has a stylized finish to it rather than what is almost, by the way, photorealistic on the max settings, which I could just turn on, couldn't I, for a joke? Maybe we'll do that in a second. But yeah, so obviously getting 30, we're a bit clunky. We are. And I think games like this that require some amount of reaction and reaction, I think is probably the way I would put it. Particularly with like big bosses and that kind of thing, where you need to make sure you're not drastically dropping frames, is going to be tough at 30. Not impossible, but it gives you an excuse. And maybe sometimes we need that. So maybe we're not for this all the way through. Anyway, I've unlocked this really cool skill where you get to go up on the staff really high and then hit them. Love it. It's great. So I'm just going to stick in this bit because no point really. I've not explored any further yet, and I don't want to do that just for the Steam Deck stream. But yeah, I think it looks nice enough and plays well. Like, this is 42, 38. Like, we did see some dips down to 30, admittedly. So there's definitely look how nice it is just in the menu on here. Wow, that looks great. It's slow because I think this must be like a higher model thing for the menu, which I quite like. If you're going to do it, give people a taste of the nicety. So yeah, that's 90%, which is sort of what the game recommends, and like I say, applies the same logic on my main computer. This is 80%, so we are sacrificing some resolution now. We are a bit softer. We're a bit softer. Yeah. But what does this allow us to do now? So in theory, this kind of allows us to avoid the 30%, the 30 FPS drop. Yeah, nice one. That's cool. And like, all the stuff still destroys the same. Physics is still in there. It's still really nice. Yeah. So you're still playing it on. You are still playing on 30, but you've almost guaranteed your 30 with the 80% FSR. Okay, brill. Let's go and do a rest, and then we'll put FrameGen on. And you'll see the FPS chart go all over the place because that's kind of how the FrameGen works. And then we'll run it on like high or something just to see if we can actually see how the game might look if it was beautiful. Properly beautiful. Right, here we go. FrameGen. Give me those. Give me that like heart monitor chart. So now the problem comes in the fact that we have to try and maintain something that is 60 or feels kind of like 60. So yes, visually actually much smoother. Animations much smoother. Responsiveness actually quite similar to where we had it with I would say the 40-ish felt a lot smoother than, as in the 80% resolution scale felt smoother than the 90. Does this feel? It doesn't feel better. It looks better, and I think that's ultimately going to be your problem with your FrameGen. you know, the frame timings. I don't have all the things, but like you've got that. What's the word I'm looking for? So this is much tighter without frame gen. Just that sway of the movement on your camera control stick. So let's turn off frame gen, and I'll give another feel. Yeah, see, it's so snappy. It's so like light and almost like weightless. Lack of responsiveness. Whereas this is doing what I'm telling it to do. I know it sounds so stupid, but that is the difference. It is the frame gen thing can help it look fine, and I think depending on what you're playing, and I know the games are not going to be as useful for having something like frame gen, but oh man, and the thing is, like with games like this, and I said the same thing with the Dynasty Warriors one as well. You kind of need 60 FPS. I mean, let's see what I need. I don't think we're going to be able to do it, actually, to get 60 FPS. Sorry, my voice is starting to go, but I'm going to carry on. Let's just do 50. 50%. There's nothing more we can do. We're soft. We are soft. We kind of look a bit like a PS2 game. And we're not quite 60. Not 60 at all. However, it does feel a little bit more smoother. I think a lot of this technology is absolutely brilliant, by the way, and hats off to those companies, particularly AMD with FSR as well, more than Nvidia, because it's open to Nvidia basically. You know, they've prolonged the life of many 1060s, I'm sure, with FSR. Yeah, like you just have to find the right balance, and I think, you know, for this game, I would love to say it was 90, but I think it's 80% on the FSR. I would absolutely. I always seem to like end these videos with settings recommendations. That's what I'm kind of going to do today. Yeah, stick it on 80, accept the fact that it's going to be running at 30, basically. Oh, you might get away with 85, actually. Let's have a look at 85. No, give me 85. That was me, my bad. Because you kind of want it at about 40, because some of the animations and stuff are a bit, you know, a bit much. But yeah, it doesn't feel quite as nice, but this is your balance, I think. And I probably wouldn't even bother changing any of the texture things because we're already at 5.2 gig on the VRAM. So yeah, I think that's probably your best. But the FSR really helps out quite a lot here. Let me see what the recommended is. 90 with frame gen. Yeah, I would not do frame gen on this. You are absolutely going to lose boss fights, 100%. Yeah, does not work. Much better on Dynasty Warriors, actually, though, I have to say. So maybe it's more of an implementation thing. You might be able to do what, 90? See, the problem is 90. You're running the risk there of some intense bits going under 30. I feel as though there's that. I need a boss battle really to verify, but yeah, I think you're gonna. Oh, there's the. Wait, what? Oh, this looks like a trap. It is a trap. I knew it. I'm not gonna fight him. Is this a? He's not. It doesn't count as a boss, does he? He's gonna be like a elite enemy rather than a boss. You know, not so much like the big fancy special effects and that kind of thing. Or do you want to see me get beaten? You probably want to see me get beat. Go on then. Let's do it. Oh. He's not a hostile. Okay, I feel bad now. I was going to smack him with my staff. I'll have to see him in my own time. I tell you what, let's actually stay in this area because we have got a little bit of skybox if we need the extra FPS to get us through. But let's try and have a play. Yeah, no frame gen, something around 90 super resolution, 85 to 90 I think is probably the best. And you don't really lose a huge amount in the scaling, actually. The game still looks pretty good. So let's go. Let's go to medium. Shall we turn FSR off? Shall we put frame gen on? No, we shouldn't put frame gen on. That's silly. Okay, so this is medium. Ooh, that is muddy in terms of the controls, anyway. But you know, it's still over 30 with super res. So yeah, looks better. And just for the fun of it, let's go cinematic. you think it's even going to let me apply cinematic? It's not going to be full cinematic any. Oh no, it's not. That's not a cinematic at all. I mean, there's some stuff that looks better, yeah, but it's clearly not running at those actual settings. I feel as though the medium might have been true to form. Let's see if high. Last one. I think we're running into the texture buffer anyway. That's going to be the problem. See, that actually almost looks better than cinematic. But we are losing a little bit of the light. Yeah, losing some of the... Oh, no, actually, maybe not. No, it looks good. Looks good. Oh, anyway, that's a roundabout way of me saying I don't trust this frame gen stuff. Super resolution, I do. And I think for stuff like this, it is brilliant. Obviously, you're only going to be playing this on low. With FSR, which I don't think is a surprise. I think that's about the best. Unfortunately, there's no 60 FPS that I can recommend for this particular game, which does sadden me quite a bit because, like I say, I kind of feel as though it's almost necessary for these games. If you're rubbish like me, maybe if you're super good, then it's not so much of a problem. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there, but thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed me reviewing Black Myth Wukong on the Steam Deck. I realize it's been quite a long video, so maybe I should have started with the proposed settings. Just turn frame gen off. See you next time.